Welcome back to an episode of Clutch Gene Sports. I'm your host, Marco Martinez. The 49ers are making moves. Recently signed Yetur Gross-Matos, and they also signed defensive tackle Jordan Elliott. Fun times if you're the 49ers fans. I mean, we did lose Arik Armstead. Deebo Samuel changed from 1901. A lot of things are happening. I'm going to give you my opinions, my thoughts right after this. If you're watching, you got that Clutch gene in your veins, so make sure you hit that subscribe and like button for me. 49ers making moves. Very exciting day for a couple of days for the 49ers, except it kind of hurts when you lose veterans who have became fan favorites, who've been a while on the team for a while. Losing Arik Armstead, a very good defensive tackle, having to replace him not only on the field but in the locker room. A lot of things going on. The Niners signed two defensive ends or edge rushers, Leonard FLoyd, the bigger signing, Yetur Gross-Matos, and then they signed defensive tackle Jordan Elliott, which looks to appear to be the replacement for Arik Armstead, which I'm not sure how I feel about the 49ers free agency so far, but I'm going to give you guys my thoughts. But first, before we do that, I want to see what your guys' thoughts are. Drop a comment if you thumbs up, thumbs down. How do we feel? Are we thumbs up, sideways, like A, B, C, D? Are you giving them an F? What's your grade on the free agency so far? Well, yesterday I said I don't know how I feel about Leonard FLoyd. Now I said I like the player. I didn't know how I felt about bringing in someone who's already 32, who has had production over the last 4 years, but essentially you're just trying to get someone opposite of Nick Bosa to get after the quarterback. And then the Niners become a little redundant. They sign edge rusher Yetur Gross-Matos, who is a good run defender on the outside on base packages, who could probably slide in, most likely will slide in on passing downs and get after the quarterback from the inside. So I decided, you know what? Why not reach out to a couple of content creators from the Panthers? I want to know what Panthers fans and content creators thought about Yetur Gross-Matos. So I reached out, and this is what one had to say about Yetur Gross-Matos. He had a mini breakout last year. He was awesome in limited time because of injury. At first, many thought he'd be a misfit in Evero's 3-4 and that he'd be traded, but he did really well and fans wanted him back. Great inside, outside pass rusher. Only thing he lacks is more experience and playing time. And then I asked, how is he as a run defender? Because the Niners just lost one of their best run defenders in Arik Armstead. Shout out to 49ers Throwback. Shout out to 49ers Media. Two great 49ers followers, subscribers to the channel. They definitely got that Clutch gene. They're subscribed to the channel, so make sure you're subscribed as well. So I had to ask, well, what are your thoughts on him as a run defender? Because the Niners got worse as a run defense. Losing your best run defender in the inside definitely hurts your defense. So I asked about Gross-Matos as a run defender, and this is what he had to say. Pretty good, not great. He could set the edge. I would say average to possibly above average, but again, limited snaps. Better as a run defender outside than inside, which makes sense. He's a 6'5" guy, super long, lengthy arms, 35-inch arms, 260. So you don't want a guy like that in the interior when you're trying to run the ball and have to go up against 300-pound linemen when they're doing a double on you and you're having to anchor down. So it makes sense that he's better outside. So the 49ers had a gaping hole at defensive tackle. Now, for me, I do like the Yetur Gross-Matos signing in terms of I like the player. What I don't like about it is it's a bit redundant. Now, the Niners recently they drafted Robert Bill Jr. They have Drake Jackson, who they're hoping could come along the right way. So to me, it didn't make sense when you already signed Leonard FLoyd to correct the edge position, and then you go and you sign another edge rusher who could potentially just essentially is going to be like your Charles Omenihu, where you have him play outside on base downs and kick inside on pass rushing situations. Doesn't make sense to me. You just sign Leonard FLoyd on the outside for $10 million, and then you go up and you sign Yetur Gross-Matos at $9 million. Do you not think one of these guys are the answer? Or are you trying to go two players for the price of one? Which that's a concern. You could have used some of that $10 or $9 million on a corner. That's a big weak link. To me, that was where I was like, okay, I don't like the signing because it's redundant. That's where I was confused. And then I like the Jordan Elliott pick. I thought it was a great signing. I know a lot of people looked at PFF immediately were like, oh my God, they just signed one of the worst defensive tackles in the NFL. Yeah, if you look at his PFF grade, PFF's terrible. PFF grade was absolutely garbage, right? He's ranked 100 and something on defensive tackles if you're looking at PFF grade. And so what I decided to do, again, I like Jordan Elliott coming out from Mizzou, out of Missouri. I thought he was a phenomenal player coming out of college, a great run defender with upside as a pass rusher due to his athletic ability and strength. Good hands, but played with a little bit of high shoulders. And when I watched him throughout his time in Cleveland, because what I wanted the Niners to do during that 2020 season, just for a little context on Jordan Elliott, who the Niners just signed. So I didn't want the Niners to draft at 13. I wanted them to trade back a little bit, get a receiver, and then at 31, go best player available because I liked that draft class at the time. I thought they were going to go potentially Justin Jefferson. I had mocked him at 13 at one point. I didn't think they were going to do it though because I think they viewed him as a pure slot receiver. Well, they ended up taking Javon Kinlaw. I personally wanted Jordan Elliott in the second round. I tweeted out a picture that I sent to someone during that 2020 draft cycle, and I said Jordan Elliott in the second round would be phenomenal. Well, since the Niners took Javon Kinlaw, what I tend to do is if they take someone that I didn't really want at that pick and I wanted someone later, I'll follow that player for his first few years. Jordan Elliott is a guy who's a really good run defender. He is not the greatest pass rusher, but I think that's what you're getting with him. He has the upside as a pass rusher, and that's, I think, what the Niners saw as well. Put him inside next to Javon Hargrave, Nick Bosa, Leonard FLoyd. He's going to get production. He had 4.5 sacks last year. But again, like I did with Gross-Matos, I hit up a content creator who does Locked On Browns. And I asked him what his thoughts were on Jordan Elliott, and he said best year was last year. Should be a good rotational piece for the Niners. He never really got the chance to play with talented players inside. Last year, he got the chance and showed that he could hold his own. And I said, what? Didn't really get what he meant by hasn't played with talented players. So, he played with Garrett. Can you please explain that? I'm kind of curious. Because I meant he never played with decent defensive tackles until last season. He could potentially start, but he's going to come off the field. He's not that great of a pass rusher, but he could stop the run at a high level. Now, the PFF grades came out, and people were dragging him because of his PFF grade. But then when you look at certain stats, like run defense win rates and stuff like that, shout out to my guy Leo Luna. If you guys aren't following Leo Luna on Twitter, Bay Area Sports Digest, Instagram, and everything like that, make sure you guys go follow him. He put out some defensive tackle run stop win rate rankings, and Jordan Elliott, as what I had saw from the film, what I had saw from everything and from what I heard from content creators right away, was great run defender. PFF says he's terrible as a run defender, which makes no sense. Well, a better stat to go off of is run stop win rate rankings, and Jordan Elliott's ranked 6th with the 40% win rate against the run. Double teamed 45% of the time against the run. I don't get what fans are looking at on PFF, but when you look at Jordan Elliott as a run defender, he's really good. As a pass rusher, he has really good upside. It's a 2-year deal. He gets to work with Chris Kasarik for 2 years. So when I saw that, I'm like, okay, that's great. We've been doing a lot of 1-year signings, right? We saw Charles Omenihu have a great 1 year, leave, get paid. Jordan Elliott gets to stick around for 2 years. I like the signing because it's 2 years for only $10 million. He's gonna have if he has a great year 1, he gets to build on that with Chris Kasarik. That's where I like the signing. Now to get to a couple of the comments, shout out to everyone in the chat, really live. 49ers throwback says he's still worried about the offensive line. So am I. Hopefully they address that in the draft. That's kind of where I see them leaning to. And if you really want to see what the Niners do in the draft, David Lichty and I are going to be doing a mock draft later tonight around 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Make sure you guys tune into that. We're going to be doing a mock draft. Who are the Niners taking and how do they up and build on their foundation? So Real Sports Talk TV, shout out to Sunil. Could they possibly be thinking about using Bosa inside more like we saw flashes of last season? They could, but I wouldn't do it. And the reason is you truly lose out on Nick Bosa, in my opinion, because it's easier to double from within using the center and having everyone else go one-on-one. So I wouldn't do it. I would keep him outside, especially on rundowns and pass rushing ability that he has. He brings a certain presence. I would not move him inside as much as they did last year, unless you want to have him standing. So I would like that if they did standing. 49ers media, I think they saw we lacked depth last year and didn't have a great rotation. When we had a good rotation, we had fresh legs and some good pass rushers. Now, when they did lose Armstead, we saw the run defense go down a little bit. This is kind of telling me that, you know what, we want to stop the run. We need to have good run defenders outside of the top guys. I don't think they're done at defensive tackle, whether they sign another player or they draft someone to stop the run and get after the quarterback. I don't think they're done at D tackle. Throwback, I explained the pick in the sense of great run defender. I like the signing. Not worried about defensive tackle if Armstead is really going to be gone. I'm worried. Sorry, I read that wrong. I see Prince Albert. Shout out to Prince Albert in the chat. Make sure y'all smash that like button. Hit that subscribe button. If you got that Clutch Gene in you, make sure you subscribe to Clutch Gene Sports. Are you surprised there are so many solid corners available? I actually am. But it's also, I think this is a better draft class at the corner position than people want to give credit for. I do think the Niners could address corner in the draft, roughly around that 3rd round, where there's a few corners you could take in that 3rd round where they could probably start year 1 on the outside. Now, in my opinion, I keep Domino Lenore inside. I thought he was phenomenal inside, and I felt like he brought that secondary together inside at that nickel role. So I definitely would do that. It all just depends on what the Niners feel. But I also wouldn't mind going and getting a guy like a Dory Jackson or a Kendall Fuller on a 1 or 2 year deal. Doesn't look like they're going to be commanding a lot. Kenny Moore got a 3-year, $30 million deal. Do the Niners move on that? Now, they're probably going to create a little bit more cap space by extending Mooney Ward on the outside. That frees up some cap space so they could go make a move. Drop your grade so far for the 49ers free agency through day 2 so far. Now, they signed Leonard FLoyd. They signed Jordan Elliott at defensive tackle and Yetur Gross-Matos at the edge position. So they have 3 signings. 2 of them. The first one was a 2-year, $20 million deal. Gross-Matos got a 2-year, $19 million, and Jordan Elliott got a 2-year, $10 million deal. If I had to give a grade right now, just because I didn't think the Yetur Gross-Matos signing was extremely necessary, I thought that was redundant, I would give them around a C plus, because you lost a really good run defender in Armstead, really good pass rusher in Armstead, a veteran presence in the locker room. They got older with Leonard FLoyd. He's older than Armstead. He's healthier though. That's the biggest plus. Is He's healthy. He's durable. He can play a lot. He's played a lot of games in the last 4 years. Since 2018, hasn't missed a game. So that's a plus. But age starts creeping up on these players. So that's where I was kind of confused. Yetur Gross-Matos, young, athletic, could play inside, outside versatility. Kind of a smaller Armstead is the way you can kind of look at it. He could play inside and outside. Now, for me, I'm looking at it, and I see Jordan Elliott as a good run defender with potential upside as a pass rusher. I give it a C plus because you really haven't gotten much better. If anything, you got, I guess, cheaper and younger because of Matos getting a little bit younger, Elliott's younger. I guess you got cheaper and younger. Maybe that helps the Niners win a Super Bowl. Maybe adding more athleticism there. I'm not going to say I don't like the signings. They re-signed George Odom. I didn't think that was worth it. I thought you could have drafted a young safety later in the draft who could play special teams, or a running back or a receiver who could play special teams. Linebackers play special teams. Jalen Graham, D. Winters. You started, like, if we really look at players they've drafted, you got to start relying on them to play special teams. I didn't really care for the Odom extension or re-sign, or I didn't like it. Now, it's not terrible because it's probably going to be a 1 year where the money's guaranteed up front, essentially a 1 year deal. So they're probably trying to avoid the void years that they have to eat dead cap. I love tendering Jawan Jennings, and I hope they get an extension with him. I want to keep him around for a couple more years. So hopefully they're working out a contract extension. That's what I'm trying to do. I want to extend Jawan Jennings. Did Odom lead in tackles on special teams? I believe he did, and he was injured for a majority of the season, which is crazy. Tells you how good of a special teamer he is. But 2 years, I believe, $10 million, I believe. I don't think that's worth it for a special team ace who is your fourth safety. You truly don't want to play him. Third safety. But I understand it because special teams value is really important in the NFL, and the Niners' special teams unit was pretty bad. Now, for me, the winners so far of the free agency period, it's freaking Adam Peters. Former 49er, assistant general manager, has had a phenomenal free agency in Washington, signing a lot of players, re-upping that team. Not overspending like people were saying that, oh my God, in order to sign players, you got to overspend. I'm a firm believer you don't have to overspend to get the right players. Adam Peters just did that. I think Adam Peters has had a phenomenal free agency. I would say Houston is also crushing it. Kind of sucks seeing former 49ers coaches and assistant general managers doing great things. Now, the reason why I think the Commanders are doing things the right way is because they upped their offensive line for a young Ricky coming in. They signed a really good linebacker. They addressed the edge position with 2 edge rushers. They signed a really good safety after not paying Cam Curl the $17-18 million that he was wanting on a franchise tag. They didn't do that. Smart moves. Houston got much better in terms of finally got a running back in Joe Mixon. They just signed Daniil Hunter. He got paid. Makes sense why the Niners didn't sign him. He was going to get paid regardless. Roughly 25 million, roughly 24, 25 million. That's pretty damn good. Opposite of Anderson, D'Amico also got Aziz. Two winners right there for me. But I would lean towards the Commanders because they got a lot of players for really good value signings. They didn't overspend on anyone. This is true. Sunil has a great point here. It is easier to have a great offseason when you have tons of money and building from scratch. It is, but what I would say is a lot of times when teams have that extra cash and extra money, they go out and they spend stupidly, right? We've seen teams do it. For example, the year the Niners signed Pierre Garçon, I thought they overpaid him. That first year, Pierre Garçon got paid. I thought that was a stupid contract. All right. So, like, we had the money, we had the opportunity to make the right signings. But when you look at things, some teams, when they have the cap space, they make they make the wrong decisions in terms of signing. For example, the Niners had signed Pierre Garçon that year. I believe it was um, a 5-year, $45 million. No, they had outs on it. He got paid that first year 15.9 and then 6.8, and then they cut him after 2 years because he was already older at the end of his career, injured. So a lot of times that's what happens. Again, I just wanted to come on to give my quick thoughts on the signing of Jordan Elliott, Yetur Gross-Matos. Again, I don't mind the player of Yetur Gross-Matos, but to me, it was redundant. Jordan Elliott, I thought it was a great signing. Good run defender, upside as a pass rusher. When I watched him in Cleveland, when I watched him at Mizzou, good player. He's going to come in. I think he's going to learn a lot from Chris Kasarik, the highest paid defensive line coach in the National Football League. I'm excited. Tonight, David Lichty and I get to do my first mock draft. I've done a few of them. I have not released them. The reason why I don't like to release mock drafts is because I try to draft realistic. If I have a grade on a player who is going to go with top 20, or if I have a grade on a player who's going in the 90s or 100s, I'm not taking them even though the mock draft system has them there. So if you're excited to watch a mock draft live, two people going head to head, not necessarily competing wise, but building a championship roster, building the foundation of the 49ers football team in the draft, make sure you tune in. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Shout out to Sunil for calling me the man. I don't know about that, but I appreciate you guys all for tuning in for a quick 20-minute segment. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button because you have that clutch gene in you. So make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and don't forget, at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, a live mock draft. Come and tell me how bad of a GM I am, because I know that's what you want to do, but it's going to be a perfect draft. I'm going to have the draft class of the 49ers future, and you're going to love it on Clutch Gene Sports Channel. So tune in.